For the folks who were here last year, we had an amazing show. We had a lot of great feedback from everyone. And what we heard from you guys was we need more of these. So this year, instead of having 2 shows, we have had 5. And for those of you who joined us in Dallas, welcome back. We're really grateful to everyone for taking this time out of your schedule and joining us today. We have a lot to cover, and it's a really exciting time. So the thing between last year and this year, if you have been watching things, is about generative AI. Right? Not a day passes when you don't hear about Gen AI in conferences like these, in media, in your newspapers, or maybe it's your board, your CFO, your CEO talking about it, how it's going to impact your organization. And a lot of it to do is because we expect Gen AI in the workplace to change the way how we work. There is a That's what I'm doing. Okay. So maybe when you see me doing this, you just forward it. Right. And the reason why this is so impactful is because we are going to be working in very different ways. We're going to have it's going to impact how day-to-day work happens in our organizations. And a survey that McKinsey released earlier this year, they looked at about, I think, 63 different workflows where they identified are going to be impacted with AI. And their analysis says that this is going to add about $2.6 trillion to $4.6 trillion to the global GDP, the impact of Gen AI. And if you think about those numbers, these are big numbers, but it actually means that you're going to add something like a country of the size of United Kingdom or Germany into the world GDP. That's freaking massive, right? There's something in there which is impacting this this workplace. And obviously at AppZen, we have been involved in AI in very early days. We founded this company with the belief that AI is going to change how we do work. It was 10 years ago. And the technology has massively changed from the time we were handcrafting AI models to do anomaly detection predictions to now the latest generative AI. A lot has changed. And I thought that if I had to kind of summarize that, why not use the tool itself? So instead of putting a slide together and trying to explain that, I asked ChatGPT, which has kind of created this entire buzz around AI, on, hey, describe to me what has been the journey from the time AI was being built to today when it is more of generative AI. Now, what ChatGPT did here was it looked through its vast knowledge base. It pretty much knows everything, right or wrong, it knows it. It summarized everything. It ordered it in sequence of how things have happened. It bulleted it. But it also did one thing particularly well, which was it discarded the stuff which was not relevant, right? So it applied the kind of knowledge that I could have probably brought into it to see that what is relevant to this summary which I want to present to my audience out here. Now, definitely, assuming that everything out here is correct, this was pretty useful. It saved me a ton of time. It really added to my work in a very tangible way. So now when you think of what is happening in our workplace, this whole experience has come in our workplace as well. Today, things like Microsoft Copilot or chatbots are becoming increasingly commonplace, right? Many of you guys are probably using this in your workplace. If you think about Copilot, you can now do things like take a transcript of your meeting, and Copilot can write really cool meeting minutes out of it. You want to write a praise email for your colleague who helped you complete a project. You might want to ask ChatGPT or Copilot to write about it so that you can send it to your boss. And maybe ChatGPT would write an email explaining it and articulating it better than probably even meant it, right? So these tools are definitely useful. You got chatbots which are helping you open tickets with IT to help you with your laptop problems. That is sometimes an experience better than agents. They help you write code. For those of you who write code, they review code for you. They write blog posts. They write things from press releases. They even create images for your presentations. ChatGPT and Copilot, they're absolutely useful. They're saving us all a ton of time. And they are doing creative tasks, which necessarily do not have a right or wrong answer. What I mean by that is, when you see an email summary or you see meeting minutes, could that summary be better? Yeah, it could be better written. Could that image for the presentation that this Gen AI tools created could be better? Yes, they could be. But what it is generating today, what it is creating today, is good enough. It's actually much better than what most people will do. And you can use it. So the reality is that Copilot, chatbots are now truly one of the ways that we're going to do work. We're going to get assisted by these tools in our everyday ways of doing work. And as you think about it, this is not the only way how we do work. In fact, while many of us can use these tools to give updates to our management, provide analytics, and so on using these tools, when you think about your teams, more often than not, they're doing different things. They're helping you process invoices, make payments, doing accounting, helping with month-end close. They are running the engine, the back office engine for your company. And they're not working through these tools. So if generative AI has to really impact the workplace, as its potential says, then this generative AI has to be embedded within the tools, within the processes that your teams are doing. That's where the real magic is. And at AppZen, for years, we have been working through this. We have been working through figuring out, how do I add AI into my process? How do I add AI into the process that you guys trust us to automate so that the automation can go to the next level? And one of the things as generative AI has become commonplace that we have realized is this AI has to be accurate. Thank you. This AI has to be accurate. It cannot hallucinate. What I mean by that is this generative AI has learned on a lot of data models, and it is making up words, as you guys probably know. So it tends to sometimes make up things when it doesn't know what the answer is, right? So for it to really work in finance tasks, where we cannot have a wrong answer, we cannot do a wrong process, we have to make sure that this AI, whenever it is used, it is highly accurate so that we can be confident about processing this task. Earlier this year, we made 2 important additions to our Mastermind automation platform in this direction. The first one, we released a suite of models. We call them ZenLM suite of models. And these are models that our R&D team has been working on for years. This is the result of almost 3-4 years of work of models that were handcrafted and built, and we added generative AI on top of it. So there are 200+ models that we have now released in this Zen suite. I will talk about it a little bit more. And then we added this through a new interface called Mastermind DIY, and a self-service automation builder. So what is this ZenLM model suite? As I said, these were not built overnight. These were built over years of data building for specific tasks. And if you kind of look at what these models are, there are broadly 6 categories of models. There are models called as document understanding models. What these models do is they extract pretty accurately information of documents, from receipts to invoices, statements, travel itineraries, and so on. Then there are semantic understanding models. These models understand the information that has been extracted. They categorize it so that they can trigger off the right processes, right workflows. Then there are these finance worker models, really critical for what we do. They are made for specific tasks. It could be figuring out specific policy violations in expense audit or in card audit, or doing tasks such as PO matching or GL coding, but doing only one task and doing it really, really well. And then there are feedback models. These feedback models are constantly evaluating based on your usage of these outcomes to see if do you concur with what the models are saying, or are you changing it? If you're changing it, they are redoing the prediction so that they can adjust it towards your organization. And then there are these user interaction models. These are probably closer to what you consider as generative AI models, because what these models are doing, these models are helping you write emails, answering vendor queries. And then finally, what we call process insight models, which are going across the entire process and figuring out which part of the process or steps are working, where are we facing the most kind of breaking in the process, and what can you do, what can the AI model recommend to make the process smoother. So holistically, if you look at these models, 200 plus models, all of them built on the same platform such that they're secure, the data is private, it's not going anywhere, it's all anonymized, and they're doing specific tasks. And these models are now available to be used as a part of the process. Now, while building these models, we have to make sure that the performance of these models is to the level that they can be actually used in finance tasks. And our team is constantly evaluating how do we measure the accuracy of these models. So some of these models, we compare them with today's state-of-art LLMs, OpenAI or Gemini. And what we find is these domain-specific models, these are narrow models. They cannot answer any question in the world. But they can do one task, and they can do it really, really well, sometimes many multiples better than any LLM out there, while keeping the data secure, private, anonymized. But then just having models which are taking that human work, human intelligence, and automating is not enough. It has to be a part of the process. And what you see out here, SOP, is what something we ought to live by, which our teams have it all documented. And why do we have an SOP? Because we need to write down what are the steps to be followed in a process to make the process consistent. What are the things that the person needs to look for? What are the actions they got to take? What are the decisions they have to be made? And we write it down so that when a new person joins in, they follow the same steps, and hopefully we get the same outcomes, right? But if you really double-click on these SOPs, they are a set of instructions, right? And the reason why these SOPs are not automated, because the checks that you see in there have always required some kind of a human understanding, which your team members have. So I put an SOP out here, which is for a AP process. And in this SOP, it talks about, hey, when you get this invoice, read the description of this line on the invoice, right? Look for the PO number, and when you get all of those, make sure you match it to the right line on the PO. A very common process. But if you don't get the PO number, or if it's not present in this case, our Oracle system, then send an email back to the vendor saying that, hey, you need to send me the invoice with the right PO. Until today, you could not automate this SOP because it required these checks and then these actions to be done. But what if you could automate those checks and those decision points with models, which is precisely what we have done with this combination of ZenLM suite of models and the Mastermind automation platform. When we combine these two things together, we can then have a trigger, have the series of checks, and the actions that need to be taken, from approving invoices or approving expenses or sending an email or asking questions, and then automating them so that we can take them to the next level, which is what we are all here for, which is our North Star, make that process autonomous. And what we have done here is we released a DIY builder. And this DIY builder is nothing but, think of as a low-code way of me putting this automation together. I can write down the steps. I can call any function to say that, hey, categorize the description of this invoice line, or categorize the description of what kind of upgrade this is on this travel itinerary, and then take those actions. So that we can build these automations faster, we can deploy them faster, and get us on this journey of autonomous. And all of this has been done in the Mastermind automation platform. So Mastermind automation platform is our years of work in bringing this automation together. It's a single data model, the same set of security, same set of models that underpins it. And all our applications, all our workflows are built on the same platform. And having invested in this platform for years now and augmenting it, making it an AI-first process automation platform just for finance tasks. We cannot do anything else with it, but we can do finance process automation really, really, really well with it. We have been able to provide a lot more workflows, automate a lot more workflows that you have asked for. So early last year, some of you talked about a workflow for vendor queries, right? This was in one of the meetings with customers in a customer advisory board. And that was seemed like a really classic case for generative AI to be used. But when we started looking at it, we absolutely faced the same problems. How can we make it accurate? So we were the first ones to use something like a retrieval augmented generation, which is really a fancy way of saying that, hey, let me put some data, my own data, into that LLM so that I can get more accurate results. But we basically put that together along with our ZenLM models and built on the Mastermind platform so that we could release a product, the workflow, for AppZen Inbox. Built on the Mastermind automation platform, where the generative AI and the ZenLM suite of models is looking at every email, classifying every email, then taking an action on every email, discarding the ones which don't require an answer. The ones which require an answer, it is kicking off workflows, retrieving information from your SAP, and even replying back to those emails. When we look at this, this is probably the most fastest adopted product that we are seeing with our customers. And when I talk to analysts, what I hear is that this is probably the only generative AI, true generative AI product for finance teams that's providing ROI, because you're seeing 50% reduction in the time spent in handling those vendor inboxes. But this is not enough. If you're on this treadmill to make this even more autonomous, right? Our vision is the same. Having built a platform which underpins all of it, having made that investment, we believe that we can, even in a faster pace, automate more of these workflows. And as we look at what else we can automate, we realize that many of the limitations that we face in our Mastermind automation platform is because of the nuanced nature of decisions that finance team members make. So when you think about when the decisions are not binary, when there's the thought process that goes along, how do we solve it? So we are introducing a lot more innovations, which you're going to hear about from Kunal when he talks about the roadmap. But the one which I'm really, really excited about is what we are releasing. It's called the AppZen AI agents. You might have heard about AI agents when you're reading through generative AI, but this is really a way of AI mimicking the decision process that a human goes through so that we can kind of deliver the same kind of outcomes. So what exactly are AI agents? Firstly, let's understand that, right? So when we think about how we arrive at decisions, how we do complete tasks, we generally, if we have to do something, we gather data, we do some reasoning, we figure out what our options are, we take a decision, and we take an action. Easier said than done, right? But let me explain that to you with some example, which we probably, most of us out here can relate to. I took an example of T&E expense audit, right? Most people here familiar with this. And let's talk about one use case, one policy that everyone probably uses, business class upgrades, right? You guys all want to check for that, who's upgrading, and then make sure that it's a valid reason for upgrading, and then either pay for it or not pay for it, right? So most people put that policy in, and then AppZen goes through it and detects a business class upgrade on that expense report. Some of you have made further modifications to it to limit which people we check for, or what was the booking method, and so on and so forth. But when you actually get that high risk, what does the auditor do? They look at that expense report, they look at that line, they'll probably look at that receipt, first verify if it is correct or not. Then they do the next set of things. They look at the person who's actually done the upgrade, find out, oh, is that guy our sales leader, is an executive, or was it an investment banker, whatever your business is? Are these people in the list of exceptions that we usually allow? Oh, let me read that justification that they provided. Was it a customer meeting? Was it or an internal meeting? Were they going for training? Was it an international trip? There's so many things to consider out here. And once they have that, they try to reason that what do we do in our company? Do I always reject it, or do I maybe ask for an email? Do I ask for a justification? And then they do one of the three things. Your auditor might go ahead and say that, nah, I'm okay with this exception. I'm going to let it go, approve that high risk. Or if you guys are really enforcing and the person thinks that, no, this has to be enforced, we cannot let it go, they will reject it. Or in many cases, they sometimes send an email out asking for, hey, did you get a pre-approval? Can you send me that pre-approval email from your manager? Can you provide me justification why you did it? So if you think about it, as an auditor, we went through multiple steps. We went through steps of collecting more data. Some of that data existed in that expense report. Some of it didn't. We had to go somewhere else and look for it. We had to look for history of how do we handle these kind of situations. And then come to a reasoning to say that what are the actions or the decisions I'm going to do and the actions I'm going to take. So now, how can you automate this? This is not a binary decision. It's a hard thing to automate. That's when an AI agent comes in between. So now, AppZen provides an AI agent with a specific goal. The goal of that AI agent is to take care of business class upgrades. The first thing is you have to configure that AI agent. How do you configure it? This is using generative AI. So you are going to teach it by writing in plain English, and you're going to see some of that in Kulan's presentation, on how you make decisions, just like you would tell a new employee, a new auditor that joins your team. Then you're going to give it some examples, that this is the kind of things that we approve, these are the things we reject, these are the kind of things that we probably send an email. So essentially giving it information in a very simple way on how to reason, how to take that decision, and then that action. Once you configure it, once you enable it, it gets inserted into that process. So now, when a high risk for that business class upgrade happens, your auditor doesn't look at it. First, the AI agent looks at it. The AI agent looks at it, gathers the same amount of data, the same nature of data that you would, because he told it to, find out about the person, find out about the reasons, who it is, what kind of trip was it, using the examples, and then does one of those three actions. It will either approve that expense report because it arrived at a decision that, yeah, I'm absolutely sure about it. Let me approve it. Let me approve this high-risk exception. Or it might reject it, or it might send an email just like you would, asking for, hey, do you have a pre-approval? Can you send me the pre-approval email? But then also does a fourth action. And the fourth action is, I'm not so sure about it. This seems very different than what I've seen in the past. Let me ask the auditor. Can you please intervene and decide what is to be done out here? This is what AI agents look like. This is now adapting generative AI and the technology advancement into the Mastermind platform. And we are going to be shipping these AI agents over the next couple of months, starting with T&E, these are very, really, if you, at the core of it, these are really sophisticated software programs. They are not trivial to build. When we are building one at a time and shipping these AI agents into the Mastermind automation platform. And they are going to be for specific goals. They have a goal, they have a plan of doing things, they will gather the data, they'll do their reasoning, and then they'll take those actions. And finally, they learn and adapt. Because you want these AI agents to improve. But what you realize here is happening is your workplace team is going to look very, very different. Coming back to what the McKinsey results that you saw, why is it so important? Because your workplace, your teams, are now going to consist of two kinds of people. They're going to be your team members who always you have relied on to do this work, but coexisting and co-working with these AI agents. That's a profound change in how we work, because those AI agents are doing many of the tasks that you relied on your team members to do. It is going to enhance the productivity, the outcomes, the cost of doing business for your teams, for your companies. And this is the new way in which we expect generative AI to make this process more and more autonomous. It will never make it 100%, but take the next step where binary decision-making cannot be relied on. Which brings us to the next set of challenges. We have been obviously thinking about this for a long time on how to deploy these changes into the workplace. So as you think about these AI agents, if you new ways you have your teams, you have your, I would say, humans and AI agents working together. What does the workspace look like? I need to find out what does this AI agent really do. I need to be able to check what kind of information it had to arrive at that decision. What are the tasks it created? Maybe it sent an email to this employee asking for justification. Maybe it created a task for somebody in procurement to add funds to a PO, because it can do all of that. I need to be able to audit these AI agents. I need to be able to find out where is my AI agent and my finance team member working together. Where is the handoff happening? How many tasks did the AI agent complete? What tasks would my team member have to complete? So keeping this in mind, we are also releasing the AI agent workbench. This is a new kind of a workspace which we expect teams are require now to achieve all the things I just talked about. This is releasing for the inbox product, the inbox workflow, which we just saw, where the inbox helps in sending emails, replying back to vendors, creating invoices, reviewing through statements, stuff like that. And as you can see, you can actually audit and do all these things which we just saw in this workbench. And our roadmap calls for releasing this AI agent workbench for different processes, for T&E expense audit, for AP processing, for cards, and so on and so forth. Isn't this cool? This is how the workspace is changing, and this is how we expect autonomous finance to take place in the workplace, in your finance organizations, to provide that competitive advantage, to provide the best-in-class numbers that your CFOs have set for you. You all understand that every CFO, every board is looking at optimizing their finance teams so that they can get the most advantage of what's happening with AI and make those finance teams as a competitive advantage. And we want to be a partner with all of you to make that happen. Each and every member of AppZen wakes up every day thinking about what is the next wave of innovations we can do, how can we implement it, and how we can help our customers drive through those changes in their organizations. And that's why we call all of you finance trailblazers, because you guys are doing this, making it happen, and we are going to be on this journey with you to take you through these innovations and getting this in your workplace. Guys, we have a lot of things going on this entire day. Plenty of sessions around everything that I just talked about and many more things to come. Thank you so much for coming in here once again and listening to me. I hope to talk to each one of you. Thank you.